Our biggest issues really are Flagler Beach.
After flying overhead to survey damage from Hurricane Ian, Flagler County Emergency Management Director Jonathan Lord tells WNZF he observed beach erosion.
Our dune system is very heavily impacted. We have a small area of a breach, which will only really be an issue at high tide. Obviously, we have damage assessment teams throughout the county doing a more detailed inspection than the flyover. Teams are already working on more detailed assessments of the dune system and working out what we need to do to repair them where possible.
A portion of Flagler Beach's iconic pier was also damaged. About 9 inches of rain fell in Bunnell, causing minor flooding. Speaking Friday, Lord said Palm Coast looked mostly untouched, but water in the canals remained high.
We didn't see any home intrusion. Same thing with the unincorporated parts of the county between like Old Kings and the Intercoastal. There's water very close to homes, but there does not seem any obvious home intrusion. Obviously, we have damage assessment teams throughout the county doing a more detailed inspection than the flyover.
On the western side of the county,
Crescent Lake is definitely well outside of its banks. It very much might be an issue for the rest of the week because the St. Johns River will stay backed up. There's areas to the south of us, outside of our county, that receive almost 30 inches of rain. So way more than what we ultimately got. And that rainwater's got to make its way to the St. Johns River. And the Crescent Lake area is directly fed by the St. Johns River.
Lord says some areas of the county saw about 12 inches of rain, but Palm Coast only got about half that. This local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota US 1 St. Augustine, here to wow you. Flagler County deputies saw hundreds of calls for service during Hurricane Ian.
Sheriff Rick Staley has the recap from last Thursday night.
We answered 216 calls for service. We conducted 53 traffic stops. You weren't supposed to be driving. Our team cleared 18 trees that had fallen so that traffic and public safety vehicles could get by, and they assisted other agencies clearing trees.
3 people were arrested.
2 were stopped for curfew violations. 1 decided to give us a false name and fight our deputy, so he was tased and went to jail, and he was a fugitive from Volusia County with a no bond warrant. And then the other one was a curfew violation. He was driving on a suspended license. So we made 1 other arrest for domestic violence. You know, when people are closed in, just like we saw with COVID, domestic disturbances tend to increase.
Deputies also rescued 3 juveniles and an adult from a flooding situation in the Double L section. For Flagler's Morning News, I'm Rich Petchke.
While Flagler County received less rain from Ian than forecasted, another reason the county fared so well was due to strong communication.
The city of Palm Coast is currently in the recovery phase of Hurricane Ian. City staff is conducting damage assessments citywide to identify any potential safety hazards. Palm Coast Mayor David Alphen also says communication has been another important part of overcoming Hurricane Ian, and he's pleased with the results.
I can tally up and I can account for every single dollar very well spent because the communication to our residents, not just as residents of the city of Palm Coast, but back to the EOC in Bunnell, was incredible. Nobody missed a beat and everybody was on top of the information every minute of every day.
For Flagler's Morning News, I'm Karen Johnson.
Will this be the year that breaks Florida's homeowners insurance market? Carolyn Moliere, a Florida resident and resident fellow for the Washington insurance think tank R Street, says Hurricane Ian won't be what broke it.
The insurance industry in Florida had major problems before the storm. We've got a big litigation crisis that goes on in our homeowners insurance industry here in the state. A special session was convened in May to try and address the issue. A few changes were made. I think kind of the broad opinion was that none of it really went far enough. But Florida homeowners are paying 3 times the national average for homeowners insurance. Now, I'm of the belief it's reasonable to have slightly higher homeowners insurance in a state that's affected by hurricanes, but 3 times the national average, that's pretty extreme.
But Moliere says with insurers fleeing the state, refusing to write policies, or going under, and more residents flocking to the state-backed system driving down competition in the private market, Hurricane Ian may be the impetus for a bipartisan solution.
We haven't even gotten a peek at the damage to life that has occurred here. This is a huge tragedy. Billions and billions of dollars in property damage, about $60 billion. So if we want to look at one little piece of silver lining of all of this, it's that this is going to have to push the legislature to do something. We're out of options here.
Now that Hurricane Ian has passed, what should we be doing?
Joe Ortiz with Ortiz Roofing said on a recent episode of the Business Report that the first thing you should be doing is cleaning up the mess. The second thing is looking for roof damage.
You go inside and you look at the ceiling to see if you see any spots on your ceiling that show any water damage. And if you do see water damage, then you want to have it inspected. If you see missing shingles or missing tiles or any type of visible damage on your roof, you want to call your insurance company and have it inspected if it's substantial.
Ortiz said that if there is work to do, you should hire a licensed, insured professional, so ask for their credentials before you hire them. You can listen to the Business Report on WNZF on Saturday mornings at 10, and it's on the Flagler radio app. Tomorrow, how do we know if they're legit? From the WNZF newsroom, I'm Deb Albertson.
And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Rich Carroll.